D Bubbles 1. Here I react to spooky and sports stuff. That's something you are interested in. Make sure you subscribe and like and comment. Let's hop right into these spooky stuff. The first story we have is
Won't you shut the hell up? I didn't come here to talk.
Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, when my stepdad was in like high school, they lived in this house like out in the country, and they had one of those stereo systems with all the different components and all that. And they had a ghost that lived on their property. And at random times when the stereo was on, the little needle would move, like it was picking up sounds and things like that. And also, they had a cattle gate at the road end of their driveway, like a big heavy metal gate that also had like something like this that stuck into the ground. So when you open the gate, you didn't just swing it or just unlock it. It couldn't blow with the wind. You had to lift up this pin out of the ground to move it. And he was going out one night with some friends in high school, and he walked down to the end of his driveway and the gate was open, and he knew that it was closed. And so he decided not to go out with his friends that night. He just thought, this is too weird. And his friends that went out that night got in a really horrible car accident. And he attributes this ghost to saving his life.
It sucks that I couldn't get her comments.
What the hell was that gate? Did the ghost do
Why
it?
was that gate open? But let's continue, y'all. Y'all comment down below y'all thoughts so far. The next story is from Hey Tootie off of TikTok. If you guys want to follow her, make sure y'all go follow her. But let's get right into these.
So first and foremost, let me just say this. I am intuitive. I've always been intuitive. My mother, my grandmother, my sister, we are all intuitive. So things that I grew up thinking was normal was not normal to most people. But anyway, this is just one story of many that I have. So this is about my grandmother on my dad's side. My grandmother got sick 2 years ago. Before she got sick, she told my cousins and my dad and auntie them that that was her last time cooking for Thanksgiving. She was like, she's not cooking for Christmas no more. So, you know, everybody thinking, oh, grandma just ain't cooking because she's tired. She's getting old enough in age. So, needless to say, my grandma gets sick around Thanksgiving, and my grandma, she lives in Memphis, and I'm here in Atlanta. So my grandma gets sick. My dad calls me and say, you know, hey, grandma's sick or whatever like that. Later on that day, or maybe the next day, I have a dream, but I like to say it was a vision because I seen everything. I go to sleep. I have a vision that I'm actually in the hospital where my grandma is, and I'm able to see everything. And I am trying to get to her, but the room is filled with people. These people I don't know, but they're just in there talking, and this man walk up to me and he say, your grandma going home. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm trying to get to my grandma. And he said, no, your grandma going home. I said, okay. He said, no, your grandma going home, and she going at 3. And I said, okay. And I looked, and I seen my grandma in the vision, but she didn't look sick. She looked healthy, like she was just laying there resting, taking a nap. So I immediately, when I woke up, I called my daddy and I told him, and I said, hey, daddy, I said, I don't know if you're going to believe me or not. I said, but I had a dream, a vision. And I said, you know, I told him exactly what happened. And I said, I don't know this man, but he told me grandma going home at 3. For those of you who don't know, Memphis is an hour behind Atlanta time. My grandmother died maybe 2 days after that. She died at 4 o'clock Atlanta time, 3 o'clock Memphis time. So this is one of the many stories, visions that I've seen or experienced.
Let's hop into some of these comments. It said, I would have been shooken. It says, I remember you telling this. I have visions and dreams. Now, this is something interesting. When she had her story, I was just wondering, like, was that a vision or premonition, or was that like confirmation to her too as well that her grandmother will be all right? Y'all comment down below y'all thoughts after hearing her story. I actually really enjoy that one, making me think that I should actually look into the dream ones. Let me know if y'all want me to look into some dream spooky stories. Comment down below y'all thoughts so far. All right, guys, it's getting a little spooky. I like it. But next up is Alyssa. I'm not going to, because Teddy going to tell me to shut up, or y'all going to tell me to shut up. So I'm really true. I'll go first.
I don't know if this will count as a creepy ghost story, but it sure is creepy. So this particular story, I was staying with my family in Washington, D.C., in a house on Capitol Hill that had previously belonged to my grandparents, and they left it to my uncle. Now, my aunt has since passed, but at this time, it was just her and I in the house. My uncle, who had lived there upstairs, had gone to work. So she told me she was going to the laundromat like she usually does, and takes all her laundry, and she walks like 2 blocks to the laundromat, and that was it. So at that point, I was in the house by myself. Now, because the house is really old and frail, I just, I usually try to listen out if I'm upstairs in my cousin's room, and if I'm downstairs, I try to keep my eyes and ears open. Well, this time I made sure everything was clear and I wanted to take a shower, so I go upstairs to the bathroom. Now, I was almost completely undressed, and I noticed on my way to the bathroom, because I was downstairs, I started smelling cigarettes. And I was like, that's weird, because I didn't. Even though my aunt had smoked, she had been gone for some time. But like I said, I just thought it was the smell of cigarettes lingering. So I go upstairs, like I said, I'm undressing in the bathroom, and it was like a stillness just came over me, and something said, go downstairs and check the door. When I got downstairs, I'm closing up my robe, and I turn the corner. When you turn the corner coming off the stairwell, you're facing the front door. I look up to the front door, and there's a man standing in the doorway. Now, because the build of this house is really old and fragile, I mean, it literally would have took nothing to just push the door in. That's how fragile the house was, because the renovations would have cost us so much money. So I see him. Before he sees me, I start to head to the house phone, which is on the base, and I glance down. As I'm grabbing the phone, I start to dial 911, and I look back up at the door, and I see that he ran. So I'm calling. Of course, I called the police. I'm like, somebody was just at my door. Then I called my aunt. I said, Aunt Lacey, somebody was, in the doorway. I think they was coming to rob the place. I look on the front, and there's a pillowcase, which he dropped when he was running. So I'm assuming he was going to use that to like put stuff in. All I know is there was a voice, an inner voice that told me to go check that door. Otherwise, when he entered that home, I would have been completely undressed in the shower by myself, house phone downstairs. Of course, you don't have your cell phone.
Let's get into these comments. It said intuition will never lead you harm. That's definitely as scary as fuck. Oh my God, terrifying. It said, I'm glad that you listened to the guides, and I'm glad you are okay. It says, nah. Intuition will never harm you. Now, what do you think told her to check that door? Because in that moment, that had to been a guide. Even though that's her intuition is there too, but I really think something was guiding her to make sure everything was okay. And in that moment, when she went to go check, that's when she realized somebody was at the door. Y'all comment down on y'all thoughts so far. What are y'all thinking about these stories?
All right, I'll go second. When I was younger, I think it was probably around 8 or 10 years old. I was at my grandmother's apartment. She still lives at the same apartment today. And I remember the day as clear as the sky is blue. We were watching the original Jaws movie, and I was laying on her couch. Ended up falling asleep, and I ended up rolling over. And in the middle of the night, I was awoken by something essentially pushing me into the couch cushion. And the only reason I knew that was because I could feel the bridge of my nose butt up against the cushion. So it was a hard enough push where essentially I felt my nose being pushed up against this couch. So I turned over and, I opened my eyes. And at first, it was a little groggy, just kind of like how you normally are when you wake up for the first time. And I looked, and no more than 2 feet away from my face was a black mass. And I look at it, I'm like, Grandma? And I kid you not, to this very day, this mass, it looks at me straight in the face and just shakes its head no. I shot up so fast, and I ran into my grandmother's bedroom, and I'm in an absolute panic. And this is about 2 or 3 in the morning. She looks at me and she's like, honey, what's wrong? You look like you saw a ghost. And I told her, I was like, I think I just saw great grandma, which was her mom. And she goes, what? And so she went out, she looked at, every nook and cranny of the closets, another bedroom, bathroom, and there was nothing there. So my mom picked me up the next morning, and she got me in the car, and she essentially said to me, she goes, Taylor, how is grandma doing? And I said, well, she was fine. She's like, was she really sad? And, I'm like, no, not really. She's like, oh, okay, good. She goes, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary since Grandma Buddha died. And I kid you not, to this day, I still remember the exact time it happened, day it happened, how it looked. I don't have any pictures or videos, but I'm telling you, it's made me believe that there is an afterlife once we're gone. So that's my story.
Becca said that was not human, and I definitely believe, because I would have shit my pants off. Good googly moogly. Now that mask shaking his head no.
I would have ran for the hills and screamed for my mom.
Yeah, I would have screamed mama too, Teddy. I mean, big baby. But y'all comment down below y'all thoughts so far. Let's continue with these stories.
I still talk to my mom about this story to this day. You guys aren't going to want to miss this. So in my childhood home that I grew up in, I shared a bedroom with my older sister, Michelle, who a lot of you have seen on my TikTok. And we had like a bunk bed, but we would, if we didn't stack them up, we would put them, on either side of the room. And the room was really small. So it was like our bed, a little nightstand in the middle, and then her bed on the other side. So we were really close, always hanging out, always playing together. Now, just to give you a little bit of backstory, this house was actually moved from Detroit, Michigan to the town that we were living in, which I don't want to say for obvious reasons, to give away where I'm at. But there were talks of it being in like a really scary kind of rundown place and things or whatever. But when we first moved to Michigan, this was the house that my dad could really only afford. It needed a lot of work. It wasn't the greatest house, but it was our childhood home. Anyways, moving on. One night we both go to bed. Everything's fine. I fall asleep, and then I wake up in the middle of the night and I see a shadow in the right corner of the bedroom. And it's shorter. It's like the size of a child. And I can make out the shape of a little boy. I can tell this is a little boy, even though he doesn't look like a human. It was basically like a shadow, but you could tell he was a boy. He had short hair and kind of boy-like clothes on or whatever. I was so paralyzed with fear. If you've ever been in that situation where you're so scared, you can't move, you can't talk, you can't do anything, that's what happened to me. I sat up straight. I couldn't call for my mom. I couldn't wake Michelle up, even though she was sleeping right next to me. And finally, I was able to say, what is your name and what do you want? Now, keep in mind, I was probably 6 at the time. And I had never seen anything like that. I've never experienced any kind of spirit or demon or angel. To this day, I'm still not sure what that was. I just know that I was frightened to death. The only thing that he said to me, yes, he spoke to me. He kept saying, "My name is Robert. My name is Robert." And I just sat there and stared at him and was in such a panic. My heart was racing. My body was sweating. I will never forget this. Eventually, it was like he just kind of dissipated. He went away. And I stayed in bed for the rest of the night with the blankets over my head. I was too afraid to even get out of bed to go tell my parents because I thought he was going to come back. I never did see him again after that day. But I did see other angels and spirits outside of that same house. So if you guys want to hear that story, I'll share those too. Let me know in the comments.
Now she didn't have too many comments because she just posted this like 4 days ago. Majority of these stories is posted almost 4 days ago. It's amazing how much on site of ghost effects is something you never forget.
Last but not least, Big Baby, what you doing? He said, yeah, we at the end. Last but not least, the final story. But I think Big Baby actually enjoyed the story. You see him? All right, let's get back into this.
Kitties. Okay, so here's my story. I was in high school. This would have been back in like 2006, 2007. It was around 4th of July, okay? I live in Minnesota in a very small town. There was like 100 people in it, and we were at my friend's house that we would often, like the group would often go hang out at. And it was right by railroad tracks. That's important to know. I got in an argument with my boyfriend, so I was outside, it was late. I went outside just to cool off, and like some people were doing fireworks down the street. And so I was standing there watching them, and then I hear like this rustling across the street. And I thought, oh, maybe it's like a deer, it's very common in our area. And so I noticed there's cars coming, and I'm like, okay, cool. They'll shine the light. Maybe I'll be able to see what it was. First car goes by. There was 2 cars. First car goes by. I didn't see anything. I was looking. Second car comes by shortly after that. Didn't see anything. But as soon as that car passed, I saw a little girl standing across the street in a bloody white dress. I froze. She was there long enough for me to see her doing this. I ran inside so fucking fast, I was shook. Ghost white, pun intended. And I walk inside, and my friend's dad, the first thing, he takes one look at me and he goes, "You saw her, didn't you?" Excuse me? I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Was you wearing a white dress?" "Yeah." "Did she wave at you?" At that point, I was like losing my shit, okay? And he proceeds to tell me how this little girl was killed in a car accident by the train tracks some way point in the past, and she hangs around the area, and a lot of times, like, he'll see her outside of the bedroom window waving at him, which his bedroom window is pretty much like you could see exactly where I saw her from the bedroom window. And he told me the worst thing that she had done. He was like, she's harmless, but the scariest thing she has ever done to me is when I woke up in the middle of the night and she was hanging from my ceiling upside down with her face right here. No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't think I ever went back to that house.
Now her comment says, "I was like this the whole time." Y'all comment down below if y'all enjoying these spooky stories. I'll see y'all later. Remember, this is D Bubbles.